I'm sure everybody here has had a problem with noisy neighbours. The young people in the flat above or below that like to have the TV up at full tilt at 1 AM, the neighbours who like to have relations late at night, drug dealers smashing up their flat 2 floors down, and the neighbours whose kids scream at their computers as they're gaming online during the school holidays. Now you're probably thinking, these are oddly specific. These have happened to you, haven't they? Yes, they have. Then you've got those who are known as NIMBYs. NIMBY being an acronym for Not In My Backyard, and it seems like a very British problem. Strongly worded letters, petitions, meetings at the local council, local newspaper reports with them standing next to the thing that's bothering them while putting on what has become known as compo face, and then in some cases pointing at the thing that's bothering them, which is especially true for pothole stories and other bits and pieces like that. But this is happening in the United States, which is in America right now. All because the Laguna Seca circuit has had some neighbours who don't know what a racetrack is. But hold that thought for a second. Hands up if you've seen a news story about someone who has moved in near a busy international airport such as Heathrow, Schiphol, LAX, JFK or similar. I can't sleep, aeroplanes are noisy, and so on, and so on, and so on. Now a bit about me. I lived next to a bombing range for 15 years. RAF Holbeach if you're interested. In the 90s when I was at primary school, lessons had to stop as the Tornadoes, Jaguars, Harriers and by extension the F-15s from Lakenheath used to fly over the school on their way to training because they came in low and loud. You might as well do NOE stuff while you're at it, it's properly flat out there. But when the Eurofighters came into service, you heard them, but they weren't anywhere near as distracting. You could just get on with stuff. Now I live in the approach path for Birmingham Airport and have done for the last 13 years or so. The Emirates A380 flies over most days depending on the weather, and it's inbound for Birmingham as I make this video, and might fly over as I'm talking. But we won't hear it. It depends on the runway in use, obviously, but you won't even know it's there until someone points it out. And it seems that the same people that live in airport flight paths are the same people who like to complain about noise at racetracks. So, Laguna Seca, the track famous for its corkscrew in Monterey, California. This track was in the news at the tail end of last year for improvements made to its drainage and had a resurfacing project completed at the same time, but not long after, lawsuits were filed due to the increase in noise and traffic. The people that filed the lawsuit are called the Highway 68 Coalition. Highway 68 is the main road from which you access the circuit, and on race days and track days this road can, apparently, get a bit clogged up. The A43 near Silverstone can suffer the same issues. Meanwhile, another group called the Friends of Laguna Seca is accusing the Highway 68 Coalition of attempting to interrupt its stewardship and improvements of the Laguna Seca recreational area. Now, Laguna Seca isn't the only track in the world that has had noise complaints filed. Tracks such as Brands Hatch have a curfew of 6:30 due to the housing estate near the track, which seems fair. 6:30, there's plenty of time to go racing, right? And the residents get free tickets to events as well. Meanwhile, at Croft, and I don't know if this is still true as the reference article was written in 2009, they had probably the strictest noise rules in the country, as engines couldn't be fired up until midday on a Sunday, and the engines must be off by 6, assuming that the BTCC gets special dispensation for this. Music venues are often subject to curfews now as well, especially since a lot of them have residential properties around them, and they'll have events on during the week. Last gig I went to was on a Tuesday night, for instance. If you've got a few thousand people pouring out of a venue who might have had a bit to drink and are still buzzing from the event, it might open up the bigger risk of antisocial behaviour, drunk and disorderly, cops called, not clickbait, etc. Laguna Seca is under the ownership of Monterey County, but it's actually run by the Friends of Laguna Seca, and this was handed over in 2023 under a long concession agreement or whatever it's called, but yeah, that's basically how the arrangement is right now. It was a move that was hoped that it would help the circuit in the long term, keep it financially stable and allow the business model of the circuit to evolve. The lawsuit against the circuit was then filed on the 12th of December 2023 at the Superior Court of California's Monterey County branch. Branch? Is that what you call it? I don't know. This is where I get back to that hold that thought portion of the script, because in this, the Highway 68 Coalition is saying that activity at the circuit has substantially increased since 2021, and in turn this has caused increased traffic, noise, provided inadequate water supply and quality, and inadequate waste disposal. It must also be added that the lawsuit is not intended to shut down the track. Nothing in the lawsuit says that they want to shut it down, even though they cite the use of the track as being unlawful under such and such a law from the 1980s. I say this because a lot of people have been sharing one particular video where it does say trying to shut the track down, and the guy in the video says shutting the track down, but that's not what they're trying to do here. They are not trying to shut Laguna Seca. Just trying to make that pretty clear. But in a weird way, I kind of get where the residents are coming from, even if the wording in the lawsuit does sound a bit weird. I'm guessing the residents there are cool with the odd event and track day happening. Let's just say, just arbitrary figure, one Sunday a month. They know when it's going to start, they know when it's going to end, they know when it's on, it's 4 to 6 hours of the day, they can work around that. It's a racetrack, it's what racetracks do. But if there's going to be more and more and more events and more and more and more and more people coming through, then it's a case of, hang on, we could deal with this before, we know that track is there, but now it's getting close to every weekend and we weren't consulted on this. Also, just as a note from Editing Aiden here, the track is still owned by the County of Monterey, even though it's operated by another group. So, in a way, they're probably saying, well, this is a public service issue, if that makes any sense. I'm just speculating at this point because I don't know how American stuff works. Because let's face it, if the noise really was that much of a problem, this lawsuit would have been filed years ago, probably before the pandemic. So I don't think it's a case of a few people have moved into the local area and gone, racetrack? Nobody said anything about a racetrack. Grrr. And it's actually been quite difficult to find stuff about this that isn't just a website that's a motorsport-based website just ripping into these people. Motorsport fans are going to be wondering what the hell it is these people are doing, because, well, we like motorsport, so we aren't seeing the issue, because it's something we like. I like aeroplanes. I've got no problem living next to a bombing range or in the flight path of an international airport. Okay, it's not the busiest international airport in the world, but I don't mind the planes flying over, even in the middle of the night. Like I said, if the racetrack has been operating at such and such a schedule that was fine with the locals and now exponentially increasing its output, then there are grounds to ask what's going on. I know there's going to be a few people in the comments saying don't buy a house next to a racetrack, but if you're told the track operates 120 days of the year and then out of nowhere starts operating at 340, can you kind of see it from that point of view? I'm trying to present both sides here. In Vancouver, Canada, what's happened there is that the planes are flying out and they used to turn to the south away from residential areas. At some point in the last few years, they're now turning north over residential areas. So people have bought houses in the north of the airport and been told, oh yeah, the planes don't fly over here. Then suddenly they've got 787s, A320s flying over and they're going to be going, well, nobody consulted us about this. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, we were told X, now you're doing Y without telling us, even though we know that that's there. But on the other hand, the racetrack, it's a business that brings in a lot of money into the local area. $250 million or so it brought into the local area just in last year, with around $65 million in visitor spending. And this year, it's expected to host 8 major events, including IMSA in May and IndyCar in June. The circuit also hosts a lot of track days because it makes money. Friends of Laguna Seca have said, we live here too and share the same concerns as our neighbours about noise and traffic. Our team of experienced business and community leaders are eager to move forward and revive this staple in our community for decades of future success and revenue generation for Monterey County. They also state that they're bound by the contracts to the existing perimeters of the land that Laguna Seca is built on. So it's not like they're building loads and loads of stuff like a super long exterior layout or they're building other bits and pieces. Part of the contract also states that they have to invest in the infrastructure and noise abatement procedures. Well, not procedures, it's not an airport, but noise abatement facilities, infrastructure. So yeah, it's not like they're expanding out towards the residential areas. But I also understand why people have jumped to the they're shutting it down or trying to shut it down conclusion. So many short oval tracks have fallen victim to this. One such track had to splash $100,000 on compensation for different noise level suits, and I think it's Lime Rock that's in a constant battle with the locals in America. Meanwhile, the county has stated that they don't expect this lawsuit to go through, and that this lawsuit presents no issues regarding the 2024 calendar. At most, they'll just implement stricter noise levels if indeed they have crept up, and they'll try to find some compromise with the locals. I guess it also helps that this track is still owned by the county. If it was a privately owned racetrack, I think that the lawsuits might have come a little bit sooner, or they might have been a bit more, nastier. as it were, because private entities are going to be a bit different to dealing with something that's owned by the local county, but it is what it is. So then, this has been a thing going on, and this has been a look into that thing. If this thing has made you think things about the thing, or cleared up things about a thing, then like this thing so I know I've done a good thing. And for more things like this, get subscribed with the bell thing on so you never miss out on anything that I do around here. Massive thanks as ever to the fine bunch of lads at Patreon for the support, and if you want to help support at a more personal level, then there's a link to Patreon in the description, along with links to Discord, socials, and my affiliate links if you want to get some F1 gear before the new season starts. Or the super thanks and memberships for that sort of thing too. So until next time, I've been Millward, have a great day wherever you are, and goodbye.